Tonight, a 31-year-old Toronto woman has been identified as the victim of yesterday's fatal stabbing on the TTC.
She was a very fun person to hang out with. We're all very sad. We are very sad today.
Police say Vanessa Karpuska did not know the person who stabbed her and another woman at High Park Station. The suspect now facing first-degree murder and attempted murder charges as riders remain on edge. Plus,
we simply cannot maintain a sustainable and growing city which offers a housing choice consisting of either a single-family home or a 50-story tower.
Mayor Tory announces details of his ambitious plan to tackle the housing shortage and affordability in the city. That includes major zoning changes to allow for more density. And
there's just so many unanswered questions that Metrolinx is stonewalled.
A pair of city councillors are calling for a public inquiry after CBC Toronto reported there is no credible plan to finish work on the Eglinton LRT, according to confidential documents from Metrolinx. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We are learning more tonight about the victim of yesterday's fatal stabbing on the TTC. Police have identified the victim as 31-year-old Vanessa Karpuska of Toronto. She was stabbed and killed yesterday afternoon at the High Park Station. Another woman was also stabbed and remains in hospital tonight. The suspect, a man in his 50s, now facing first-degree murder and attempted murder charges. As Chris Glover reports, the victims and the suspect were not known to each other.
Many transit riders just can't shake news of yesterday's stabbing murder of a woman at the High Park subway station.
That's all I could think about. And the subway seemed very subdued this morning.
I just feel like Toronto's under siege these days.
For here, like hearing such things, it's so scary.
31-year-old Vanessa Karpuska died. Another woman in her 30s was injured but survived. 52-year-old Nangjia Jin was arrested immediately. He appeared in court today, charged with first-degree and attempted murder.
It's believed that the suspect and the victims were not known to each other.
In April, police say a stranger shot and killed a student at the Sherbourne subway station. Just over a week later, a stranger pushed a woman onto the tracks at Bloor-Yonge station, narrowly missing the train. Then in June, a woman was set on fire and later died while on a Toronto bus in another random attack.
But we've had a rash of violence happening in the transit system that doesn't seem to stop anybody.
The union representing TTC workers has had enough and is calling for more transit security. While the police investigation will look into motive, the transit union and the mayor are already calling for more mental health supports.
We are dropping the ball on this. We're dropping the ball collectively, but most of it is part of the healthcare system.
September data from the TTC shows offenses against customers was 1.6 per million compared to 1.5 last September, while offenses against staff rose 5.4% year over year, up to just over 7 offenses per 100 employees.
What happened yesterday was a horrific event, and it was a tragedy, and so I don't underestimate that at all. But the TTC remains a very safe system.
Still, that overall safety doesn't erase the devastation for family and friends of Karpuska.
Any little silly things we do, she would laugh hysterically. It would be so cute. Yeah. She was a very fun person to hang out with. I am really gonna miss her. Yeah. And may she rest in peace too.
As if to highlight the ongoing safety concerns, Toronto police say that they responded this afternoon to calls at Chester Station of a man stabbing seats. Now, they say that they located that man and no one was injured. Still, Toronto's Mayor John Tory says that he is planning a meeting for next week with the chief of police and the head of the TTC to talk about what can be done to try to prevent this sort of violence. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
2 Toronto men have been charged in the fatal stabbing of a man in the East End earlier this week. A 30-year-old man is facing 1 count of second-degree murder, while a 23-year-old man has been charged with accessory after the fact to murder. Both of the accused were arrested on Thursday. 57-year-old Nicola Miarino was found with stab wounds at a building in the Danforth and Greenwood area early Tuesday morning. He was later pronounced dead in hospital. The Toronto District School Board passed 2 new motions today that aim to address the surge in violence in schools. Now, this comes after a recent shooting and a stabbing incident, and on the heels of more than a dozen teachers refusing to work at York Memorial Collegiate over safety concerns. Greg Ross has the details.
Just weeks after York Memorial Collegiate was thrust into the spotlight over reports of violence towards students and school workers, this teacher says things are starting to change.
Right now, we are turning the school around.
But she admits there's still a long way to go. Just last month, there was a fatal shooting at Woburn Collegiate and another stabbing at Birchmount Park Collegiate. The school board is hoping that a couple of motions that were passed today are a step in the right direction.
One of the motions would request the Ministry of Education reinstate more than $2 million in priority schools funding.
The school board says that funding was taken away in 2018. They say that money is needed to create after-school and weekend programs for kids.
Sounds great. Like, we really need more funding, especially like with extracurricular. I don't even think we have like one club that really stays open like that.
The other motion directly addresses the issue of violence in schools.
The other motion would establish local safety councils or tables that would focus on priority areas of the city as well.
Those tables would consist of community members who know the issues best, and they would be tasked with coming up with solutions.
Definitely funding is part of the solution, and getting input from the community is a must. So both those things are great.
But this teacher says it's just the tip of the iceberg and doesn't necessarily get to the heart of the problem.
We know that our schools are underfunded. We also know that our families are under stress, suffering from the effects of living under conditions that are not, quite frankly, humane. They are not well fed. They're malnourished, many of them. They are living precariously in terms of housing, and those things have to be fixed.
But those problems go beyond the school board's reach and would require the help of multiple levels of government.
I'm in the business of hope. I have hope that we will come up with creative solutions and that we will turn things around on a citywide basis.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor John Tory revealed details today of his ambitious new plan to tackle the housing shortage and affordability in Toronto. The plan is for the city to reach the target of building 285,000 new homes over the next 10 years, a goal set by the province. Now, to do so, the mayor is proposing major zoning changes, something that's proven controversial in the past. Tyler Cheese reports.
Mayor Tory looking to deliver on election promises today by announcing a new plan to tackle housing issues in the city.
We are in the midst of both a housing and a homelessness crisis, and all governments have to take further action now.
The plan aims to remove exclusionary zoning in many areas of the city to allow for more new developments and types of housing. It will also allow for more multi-tenant units.
This plan represents all aspects of the housing spectrum, from student housing to affordable housing to housing targets for the Portlands and for the waterfront.
Housing experts say the plan is a step in the right direction.
So this is the first time we've seen kind of, I think, a lot of detail put to how he might update the relevant documents that allow for more housing to be built in the city.
But some caution that more attention needs to be paid to affordability.
We got to make sure that the housing that they're actually building is not just luxury townhomes or luxury stacked townhomes that a vast amount of people, quite frankly, can't afford. The concern for some of the residents within the, areas like Little Jamaica is that the housing that is actually being built is going to be vastly unaffordable to them.
Though largely in support of the new plan, some on City Council warn the plan won't solve the housing crisis all on its own.
And we also need the provincial government to, address vacancy decontrol, bring back rent control on new units in Ontario. All levels of government providing public lands toward affordable housing.
The plan comes just one day after Tory was granted new mayoral powers by the province.
Here's another example of a reason why he didn't need strong mayor powers to do the right things, because I think he'll receive a lot of support.
The plan will be officially presented to council next week. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go to meteorologist Colette Kennedy now for a first check on your forecast. And Colette, temperatures taking a dip as we finish off the work week.
Yeah, are they ever? And it's a little hard to get used to, right? Because it's not just the temperatures when you look at the daytime highs here, but the winds, which were breezy out of the east-northeast, and we're keeping a breeze through the overnight. So then we have to factor that in, and we get into the wind chills as well. Now, in terms of conditions, there was a bit of energy earlier this evening through southwestern Ontario. That's kind of died out and moved away. So now we look ahead to what's happening into the weekend. Saturday's the day to sort of get outside or get anything prepared that you need to, because the roadways will not be very pleasant Saturday night into Sunday. We will have a system that's going to be moving through. It's going to be kind of a mix of rain and some very wet snow flurries through the Niagara region, along parts of the northern shore of Lake Erie and around the western end of Lake Ontario. But then further north, it is more of a wet snow event. Now, for the city, the amounts aren't that significant, but a little further north, they do become something we need to recognize. So I'm going to get into all the details of that coming up and show you those accumulations and winds as well. Overnight tonight, -5, feeling like -11, and the high tomorrow just coming, but with sunshine, but just coming up to freezing.
Thanks so much, Colette. A heads up to drivers, gas prices will continue to drop this weekend. So if you're thinking about heading to the pumps, you might want to wait until tomorrow.
Although I'm, grateful that I have a job where I can always afford to fill my, car up until this point, it is always nice to have the savings for sure.
I used to live in BC, so this is pretty good.
The prices are 37.9 cents higher than they should be.
Yeah, it makes a little difference, yeah. 12 cents is something.
Most of southern Ontario will see prices drop 2 more cents on Saturday to $1.33 a litre. That's after falling more than 12 cents in a week. Gas price analysts say the trend of decreasing gas prices is in correlation to the falling price of oil. Now, they anticipate prices to continue to fall this month. And we have an update tonight on our CBC Toronto exclusive on the leaked Metrolinx documents that revealed there is no credible plan to complete the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. 2 city councillors are now calling for a public inquiry into the over-budget and overdue transit line. Lorena Redekop is following this story.
The biggest boondoggle in Canadian construction history right here.
City Councillor Mike Cole spoke to reporters armed with documents from a whistleblower, the same ones CBC Toronto also received and first reported on yesterday. They show those involved in the Eglinton project have no plan for when it'll finish.
There's safety features they can't fix. There's water problems they can't fix. Platforms they can't fix.
He and Councillor Josh Matlow are calling for a public inquiry and want City Council to recommend one. Mayor John Tory is not in favor.
I think public inquiries, generally speaking, in instances like this, only are good for lawyers because you'd have squads of lawyers over there asking questions, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions, but I don't think it's going to solve any kind of a problem in the short term.
However, one goal of a public inquiry is to keep the same problems from happening again. And the Ontario Line project is just starting, already over its initial budget. The Transportation Minister says with Eglinton, Metrolinx and Crosslinx have to work through their final technical issues. She pointed to another recent public inquiry on transit.
We learned this from Ottawa, from the Ottawa LRT and from the Justice's report, is that you can't rush technical issues. We have to make sure that it opens safely and that it runs well.
But that report into Ottawa's LRT also raised concerns with a P3 model, a public-private partnership. It's also being used along Eglinton. Plus, the 3 companies involved in Ottawa's project are among those doing the Eglinton line. The 2 councillors plan to raise their motion at the next City Council meeting next Wednesday.
We would withdraw our request for a public inquiry if the provincial government and Metrolinx provided us with all the answers today.
They're also calling for compensation for affected residents and business owners and free bus service along Eglinton while the construction continues. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Hundreds of thousands of people in Ontario are about to find out if their private information was compromised in a data breach last year. It involved the province's vaccine management system. A statement from Ontario's Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery says it has been working to determine the scale and impact of the breach, and that starting today, approximately 360,000 Ontarians will receive notice that their personal information was part of this breach. In over 95% of cases, only names and or phone numbers were affected. 2 people were arrested just a few days after it happened in November of last year. One of the arrested was an employee of the vaccine contact center. A GTA couple is vowing to never shop at Walmart again after a thief stole their credit card and racked up $4,000 in purchases. Even after filing a police report and spending hours on the phone with Walmart customer service, the Richmond Hill seniors were only told the charges would be reversed after CBC published the couple's story online this morning. Trevor Dunn has this story.
Here you see the price, $258.
Hassan Jarami and Malihe Banejafi add up the charges, purchases on their Walmart Rewards MasterCard they say they didn't make. Someone else was tapping the card to make purchases.
It's really very, very bad, and it is shocking, and it is not safe for elderly people to go to Walmart Reward MasterCard.
Never ever use your card, Walmart card.
The couple's ordeal started at this Walmart in Richmond Hill back on November the 14th. They were here around noon and shopping for about half an hour, but when they got to the checkout, they realized their wallet and credit card had been stolen. They reported the card stolen right away, but whoever snatched it was able to use it 16 times in the same store.
1 week later, I received the monthly bill, and I was really shocked because the charge, I was charged $4,117. You see the price.
The amount even included a $29 service fee because whoever stole the card went over its $3,500 limit. It's now been nearly a month. The couple has spent hours on the phone with customer service, providing a police report and everything else they've been asked for.
When you go on the phone with Walmart's Reward MasterCard, they keep you on the phone, and until you say you want an answer, they say, okay, it goes on the music, and it goes on the other stuff, and then they disconnect.
I say to all the people, don't shop in the Walmart.
A spokesperson for Walmart Canada didn't explain why this took so long to resolve. The charges on the card are expected to be reversed in the next 48 hours. Trevor Dunn, CBC News, Toronto.
Residents at a retirement home in North York say new technology that was installed at the home has not only helped connect them to the rest of the world, but is also playing a key role in keeping them safe.
We have an emergency alert button that used to be limited to being in our room, but now it's on our wrist, and that means the signal can be picked up anywhere in the building. So I have a mobility disability, and I love to go down to the basement to the greenhouse. But if something if something were to happen to me in the greenhouse, nobody would hear me. I'd just have to wait until somebody found me.
Renovations at Baycrest Terraces included Wi-Fi throughout the building, something they say is not common in other retirement homes. Price says the internet access has allowed her to work remotely and get in touch with family and friends abroad. Baycrest Terraces says the renovations aim to help maintain the independence of older adults in their daily lives. It has also provided them more home entertainment options. And you are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. It is partly cloudy tonight with some cloudy periods overnight. Currently sitting at -5, but feeling more like -10. Let's go back to Colette now for a more detailed look at your forecast. And Colette, we are looking at a mix of rain and snow making its way through as we get into Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing some sloppy roadways, and I want folks to be aware of that, whether you've got some holiday shopping to do or whatnot. You know, Saturday's your better day out on the roads because of that mix that'll be coming through. The temperatures remain through this period below seasonal, so we do have some chilly air in place. And into next week, about midweek, like Wednesday to Thursday, another storm is going to be moving through again. So we get a few days break, and then here it comes. Overnight lows, there'll be a bit of a range, but look at Bancroft at -11. Likely more more like -4 to -5 for Toronto, but in that range and a little cooler just a bit north. In terms of what we'll be seeing with the wind chill, it's going to feel like -11. And those winds, they were a little gusty and blustery through the day today. They ease a bit through the overnight, but even just the sustained winds, we're going to continue to have those into Saturday. So it does knock that temperature down in terms of how things are going to feel. Now, I want to play things out for the timing for you here. For tomorrow, a lot of sun here in eastern Ontario, a little more cloud cover earlier, pushes through southwestern Ontario, but then it's going to start building as the day wears on, becoming overcast from Windsor and stretching past London. And then it's by tomorrow, towards the evening hours, we'll start to see this developing in the late evening and then filling in through the overnight hours. You see that mix where it's more of a rain event here, possibly not just from St. Catharines, but all the way around to even Hamilton, Burlington through there, and then some light wet snow pushing through the GTA. A little bit further north, though, those amounts aren't necessarily light Sunday. We'll be looking at, in these areas here with this lighter blue, we're talking about that potential for 5, or in some cases here you see these pockets where it's 5 to 10 centimeters. Into the city, it's looking more like a few centimeters, maybe up to 4 in a few pockets there. So that's what's coming for your Saturday night and Sunday. Enjoy Saturday and the sunshine that we'll have. Take a look at the temperatures and how cool they're going to be for the daytime highs. Overnight lows actually aren't that far off. They're pretty close to seasonal. But when you factor those winds in, it's a whole different story. And a heads up again about Wednesday, Thursday next week, some messy weather again.
Thanks so much, Colette. A star right in our midst all along. CBC Toronto's very own Ismaila Alpha was part of tonight's Nutcracker performance put on by the National Ballet of Canada. Ismaila playing the role of a cannon doll at the ballet. Previous cannon dolls have included former Toronto Raptor Kyle Lowry, John Tory, and Austin Matthews. And finally tonight, December 9th, 2012. Does that date mean anything to you? Well, for some, it lives on as the day a monkey stole the hearts of Toronto and the whole world. Dubbed the IKEA monkey, Darwin, a Japanese macaque, escaped his owner's car walking through the parking lot of a North York IKEA. These monkeys were not legal to have as pets, so Darwin, the fashionably styled primate he was taken away. And nowadays, Darwin is residing at Storybook Farm Primate Sanctuary in Sutherland, Ontario. And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin will have your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here Monday at 11. Have a great weekend, everyone.